Hi, I'm Mickey. Welcome back to my toy room. And today we're going to be looking at the Bachmann Mini-Army series of, well, Airfix toy soldiers, apparently. Now, I've been collecting these Mini-Army figures for some time. My interest stems from the fact that, for all intents and purposes, they seem to be the same Airfix 1/32 scale toy soldiers that I grew up with, albeit marketed in a very different way, being sold pre-painted and in packaging very different to that of the Airfix boxes that I was familiar with back in the 60s and 70s. As to whether these are those Airfix soldiers from my childhood, I guess could be questioned, because whilst the figures appear to be from the same moulds, with two exceptions, the name Airfix doesn't appear anywhere on the Bachmann packaging, nor on any of the sales literature. This is in stark contrast to when, in the 70s, around the time that this Mini-Army range was released, Airfix marketed Bachmann's mini-plane range in the UK, with the UK mini-plane boxes bearing the brand name Airfix Bachmann, and thereby acknowledging both the supplier and the distributor. Indeed, the only hint as to any possible Airfix involvement with these Mini-Army figures is wording on the packaging stating "Made in England, hand decorated and printed in Hong Kong." Now, in trying to pin down a release date for these figures, I've looked through Bachmann catalogues available online, and I've only found them in the 1976 edition. I'm pretty sure I've managed to check all of the Bachmann catalogues from 68 to 83, and that appearance in 76 was the only one I found. I did also come across these images which, whilst they certainly look like catalogue pages, I couldn't match to any Bachmann catalogue of the period. So whether these are actually from a Bachmann catalogue, I have no idea. I also suspect that these undated pages predate that 76 catalogue entry, as they dedicate 5 pages to the range, and with wording that, to me at least, gives off a new release vibe, whereas in the 76 catalogue, the entire range is condensed onto one page, and seemingly the back cover at that, but more on that later. The catalogue pages show 24 figures in the Mini-Army range, grouped into 4 sets of 6, with the figures apparently selected from the corresponding Airfix infantry set of the time. American, shown as US infantry in the catalogue images, but referred to everywhere else as American infantry, as per the Airfix set, so I'll call them American. British, German, and Japanese. Each set of 6 contained an officer figure and 5 other ranks of different poses. Each figure was available individually on blister pack cards or in boxed collector's sets of 3, 2 boxes per set. The catalogues provide details of dioramas that also form part of the Mini-Army range, available in different sizes, and with 2 apparently available in 1/76 scale, although I'm not sure how useful they would have been to these figures. I've only ever seen one of these dioramas, at least in its original packaging, and whilst I would have loved to have added that to my collection, it was listed on eBay by a seller in the US, and whilst their starting price was reasonable, once shipping and import tax was factored in, it just made the price unrealistic for what it was. And this has been the issue in trying to complete my collection of figures, because whilst those that I'm missing do come up for sale occasionally, invariably they're located in the US or Canada, and again those additional costs make the purchase prohibitive. Looking at the figures in greater detail, starting with the American infantry, we have the officer, a machine gunner, and a crawling figure, which is the only figure I'm missing from this American set. There is an error on the packaging because whilst in the catalogues it's shown and described as a crawling figure, and I've seen a carded example in the flesh, so to speak, to confirm that the catalogues are correct, it's listed on the rear of all packaging as a grenade thrower, and I'm pretty sure that such a figure didn't exist in the Airfix American infantry set. The next figure is described and shown as a kneeling firing figure, and he is indeed firing a bazooka from a kneeling position. Again, I'm sure that I remember this figure back in the mid-70s being moulded without a stand, making him very difficult to kneel upright on my parents' carpeted living room floor, and that seems to be confirmed by the catalogue images. However, the figure I have on card does have a stand. Odd. The American set is completed by two more standing firing figures, from the shoulder and from the hip. Next, we have the British infantry, which should raise an eyebrow amongst Airfix collectors, given that as of the mid-70s, there was no dedicated Airfix 1/32 scale Second World War British infantry set, a set that I'm sure didn't arrive until around 1980, up until which point we'd had to make do with the infantry support group. All becomes clear, however, when you look at the figures, as it's obvious that they are in fact the Airfix second issue British paratroopers. Once again, we have a classic Airfix officer figure, followed by a radio man, which I'm missing, a Bren gunner, two firing poses, kneeling and standing, and a grenade thrower. Next come the Germans, of which I have a full set, led by one of the most iconic Airfix figures, the German officer, backed up initially by a machine gun team, a gunner, and a loader, or ammo man, as Bachmann described him. Once again, there's an error on the packaging which lists this ammo man as another grenade thrower, although at least this time there was such a figure in the Airfix set, he just wasn't selected for this mission. The remaining elements of this German section are three firing poses, from the shoulder kneeling, from the shoulder standing, and from the hip standing. Lastly, we have the Japanese, of which sadly I'm missing the first three, which is unfortunate as the first two are amongst my favourite Airfix figures, the Japanese officer and the charging Japanese soldier, and I'm also missing the mortar man. I do, however, have the machine gunner and the two firing poses, kneeling and standing. And yet again, as per the earlier American bazooka man, we have the same issue regarding the kneeling firing Japanese figure, being moulded with a stand on the carded example I have, and yet shown in the catalogue without stand, and from memory remembered as such. So were these two kneeling figures moulded with a stand specifically for Bachmann, whilst their catalogue pictures show the standard Airfix figures? Or were these figures made by someone else who modified the moulds? Unfortunately, these are questions that I can't answer, so if someone out there can, please get in touch. Earlier, we saw in the catalogues that these figures were available in collector's boxes of 3. I only have 2 such boxes, set 2 of the American infantry set and set 2 of the German infantry set. I suspect that Bachmann had bigger plans for the Mini-Army series beyond these figures we've looked at today, given the wording on those loose catalogue pages from earlier, indicating that 8 sets are in the first collection of a continuing series, a statement that also appears on the collector's boxes. This statement, along with the fact that the packaging for both the blister pack cards and the box sets are shown on these pages in a slightly different form to those that I have in my collection, would seem to confirm my earlier suspicion that these loose pages predate that 1976 catalogue. And given the fact that, as mentioned earlier, the range is condensed onto the back page of that 1976 catalogue, with no mention of the continuing series, suggests that this first wave of figures maybe didn't live up to sales expectations and the line was discontinued. So that pretty much wraps things up regarding these Bachmann Mini-Army figures. I've often wondered as to how many of these figures I've seen loose out of packaging in the past and simply disregarded, thinking they were figures painted by previous owners. It's always amazing what some blister pack packaging can add to something that would otherwise go unnoticed. So thanks for watching. As always, if you can add anything to that which I've covered today, or more likely correct any mistakes I've made, just drop me a comment, good or bad, both will be appreciated. And until next time, just take care, stay safe, and TTFN. Cheers.